Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, this is 1971's Death by Invitation. Oh, that looks good. Typically, I get like glare and stuff. That looks really good. This is part of the Vinegar Syndrome Drive-In collection with Dungeon of Harrow. It used to be Savage Waters, but there was some copyright issue way back in the day. This is number 8 for Vinegar Syndrome. But they don't do these drive-in collections anymore. These are DVDs. It says nothing is held back, everything is revealed, and that little sticker up there. But these were great. I love these double features and just great movies. This is Death by Invitation, 1971, director Ken Friedman, and the producer Leonard Kurtman. And he didn't typically do horror films. And this is an 81-minute film, and this is a film I never heard of before. There's the poster art. At the top of the poster, it says, "Between them were 1,000 years of witchcraft and an axe. The brutal climax is just the beginning." Death by Invitation, 1971. I got to tell you something here, folks. This is a potent, powerful, oppressive, dark, grim, and interesting film. You'll know right from the opening title sequence of the movie what you're getting yourself into. It's a very dark, just a very dark and disturbing opening to the movie. And it's the way that it's done. It's the artistic style in which it is done. And the tones of this movie, the tone of this movie, the world of this movie really reminds me of the world of a couple films. George Romero's Season of the Witch, Let's Scare Jessica to Death. These are films that I've looked at already on this YouTube page. You can find them there. A darkness, a real grim, oppressive, disturbing darkness pervading throughout the film. It would be too simple to call this film a film about witchcraft. But it is a film about witchcraft, but not in the way that you're expecting. Oppression, power, manipulation, possession, vengeance, evil, theology, murder, family, romance, love. There's a very interesting dichotomy in the film. The dad in the movie is what I would consider to be a standard Christian conservative father who is, trying to raise his big family a certain way, and the way that they pray for dinner and the way that they communicate at dinner. And but the weird dichotomy is that I think he has like a Rolls Royce, and he's a really successful businessman. I just wasn't expecting that. I almost thought of him as like a kind of very simple in a way. The dad's idiosyncrasies were very fascinating to me. And the first 15 minutes of the film, I'm trying to figure out who this one woman is. And I'm not going to reveal too much. I'm trying to figure out her place in the family, or not in the family, or in the movie. Or I was trying to figure out who she was. And the movie doesn't dumb it down for you. You have to figure that out as the story goes on, as the movie goes on. And I thought it was just fascinating the way that it was done. And it was really interesting to figure out her place, because you had to figure it out in a way. How big is this family? Is she part of the family? What's going on? Sound design and music-wise, we have very oppressive, dark, percussive, also synth-driven, also kind of ritualistically nightmarish music in this film. Some very dark vocal arrangements that almost reminded me a bit of Rosemary's Baby. And then also a section of the film that was so interestingly bewildering, where there was classical music playing, but it was music that was actually playing in an office. And it was playing very loudly, and the characters were actually having to speak very loudly because of the music. You thought it was just music that was the soundtrack to the film, but it was actually the soundtrack to the people the people could hear it in the movie. The characters could hear it too. And I've talked about that previously in other videos that I've done for movies on this YouTube page, and I just thought it was really, really like interesting and kind of fascinating. I kept thinking to myself, what are they gonna like say, oh, I'll turn the music down. It was really weird. And there's some very interesting stuff going on in the film, even with male and female sexuality and the domination of gender roles and gender in general. There is a kind of monologue done by kind of the lead in the film that is absolutely breathtaking. To her verbal, to her nonverbals, to the way she blows the smoke of a cigarette out of her nostrils. I mean, it's unbelievable. As a matter of fact, the acting was just impeccable. That monologue that she did it rivaled, big budget films. I mean, it was insane. Very powerful, to the tear that was running out of her eye. And, wow. There's an unnerving quality to this film. That's why I mentioned Let's Scare Jessica to Death and Romero's Season of the Witch. And it's only something that could really happen in the 70s, it feels like sometimes. Like there's something that just doesn't feel right. It's the best way for me to describe it. And in this movie, the atmosphere of the film just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right in the best of ways, obviously. And this is a darkness that you see in the awkwardness of what's happening, the tension, the evil tension, good and evil, possession, manipulation, power of evil. We even have sections in the film dealing with the passages in the Bible in the book of Job. And I think it's being read in the King James Version, so sometimes it could be difficult to understand. But very interesting theological implications for the biblical passage in Job that's being talked about in light of this whole film, especially in terms of the kind of quote-unquote villain of the movie representing evil, witchcraft, also knowing the Bible verses well and reciting them. And so very interesting, when you hear those passages about what happened to Job and what God allowed the devil to do to Job. Very, very interesting when in light of the story of the movie as well. And in light of suffering in general to godly people, to good people, to Christian people, to religious people, God-fearing people. Very interesting. Now, another thing is the style of the movie. The editing is also very dark. The pauses, the freeze frames, the abrasiveness of continuing aspects of the editing process through the story. Things that you saw at the beginning of the movie. Death by Invitation is really a beautiful 70s hard, dark piece of work. And it's a very disturbing film. Psychologically, spiritually, but also physically. In relation to pain. Wait till you see the ending. There's a lot going on in here. There is a lot going on in here. Death by Invitation, 1971. Wow. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bazaar. Is there somebody looking through my window? Through the curtain? Are there two people? What the hell is going on here? Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bazaar YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like 1971's Death by Invitation. Please feel free to check out my own personally made films and music at www.vimeo.com/poopydiarrhea, POOPYDIARRHEA. And you can follow me there and see all my constantly made new movies and music. Thank you so much, and good night.